Hello, my name is Rosalind from Doria Life. I'm also the author of the book, The Truth About Air, Electricity and Health. Today I would like to share with you what I call the missing link to 21st century health and to offer you a perspective on why many of us are constantly plagued with symptoms of allergies like drippy noses, blocked sinuses, respiratory problems such as asthma and bronchitis, and frequent flu infections. Why we frequently struggle with feelings of stress and depression and irritability. Why we have trouble relaxing or even sleeping through the night. I submit to you that the prevalent health issues of our day are directly caused, aggravated, propagated, and prolonged by an increasing unnatural atmospheric environment in which we are living and breathing every day. Now, the most important nutrient for the human body is not a vitamin or a mineral that we get from our food or supplements, but oxygen from the air that we breathe, and in particular, the electrically charged oxygen ion in the air. Without food, we can probably last a few weeks, without water, a few days, but without air, only a few minutes. So the quality of air that we breathe is vitally important. When you inhale life-giving fresh air that is full of negative oxygen ions, your body's absorption of other nutrients is enhanced and all your body's functions are optimized. The result is robust health, strong resistance to diseases, increased capacity for healing and restoration, a revived propensity for learning and creativity, as well as a healthy emotional state of well-being. But our modern world is vastly different from that of our forefathers. The pristine air of the prehistoric world is not only extremely rich in oxygen, well above 21%, but also has an abundance of negatively charged air molecules called negative ions. Currently, the oxygen content of the Earth's atmosphere is down to only 12 to 17% over major cities, and the ion content in the atmosphere is almost negligible in busy roads of most major cities. Now, what are negative ions? Everything in the universe is made up of molecules, and each molecule consists of a heavy center, which comprised of subatomic particles called protons and neutrons. The core, or the central, is surrounded by rapidly orbiting negatively charged electrons. A normal passive molecule of air has the same number of protons and electrons, making it electrically neutral. However, because an electron is many times lighter than a proton, the electron is easily displaced by external forces. When that happens, the resulting molecule has an unbalanced electrical charge. It has become an ion. The molecule losing an electron becomes a positive ion, and the molecule gaining an electron becomes a negative ion. An atmosphere with an abundance of negative ions is that of a balanced ecology. Ancient natural healers have long understood the power of nature's fresh air that is full of negative ions. Ancient textbooks on yoga suggest that a student wishing to perfect his body and mind through breathing exercises should practice near a waterfall, in a cave, or best of all in a cave under a waterfall. The yoga gurus may not have known about negative ions, but they were familiar with their beneficial effects. Now, before the days of antibiotics, when tuberculosis was the number one killer in the world, doctors had advocated an abundance of mountain fresh air and good nutrition for the treatment of tuberculosis. Ions in nature. Ions are produced in nature through natural processes, such as the breaking down of certain rocks on the Earth's crust, the sun's ultraviolet rays, lightning, the transpiration process of plants, the shearing force of water as it falls through the air, such as during a downpour, at the seaside where spluttering waves dash against the rocks, as well as in waterfall areas. The Niagara Falls is known as the most impressive natural negative ion generator in the world, where there are more than 100,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter of air. Some of us have experienced the refreshing air of natural environments where we instinctively take deep breaths. We immediately experience a sense of well-being, a sense of calm, relaxation, and optimism. But modernization and urbanization, together with the advance of technology and atmospheric pollution from car exhaust and factory smokestacks outdoor, result in a severe depletion of ions in the air that we breathe. In cities, most of the ground is covered by concrete and asphalt, inhibiting the ionizing action of the Earth's crust. Pollution, air conditioning, and vapors given off by synthetic materials severely deplete negative air ions in our homes, leaving an imbalance in the atmosphere. The result is an unnatural, imbalanced environment, depleted of negative ions and an oversupply of positive ions. Look at this table that compares the ion density of the air in different environments. While air in natural settings are high in negative ions, such as the seaside, waterfall areas, and the countryside, we see a depletion of ions in increasingly polluted environments, such as the city, and shockingly, inside our homes where we and our children live. An air-conditioned room can have no negative ions at all. Sick building syndrome. Indoor pollution arises from the use of detergent and other chemical products, electrical fields from various electrical devices, the use of synthetic materials, air conditioning. All this destroy negative ions, resulting in an unnatural environment where positive ions prevail and in which we suffer disease symptoms. An environment lacking in natural negative ions and an oversupply of positive ions increases stress levels, aggravate asthma, sinus, and allergic conditions, exacerbate respiratory illness, undermine our immune system, promote lethargy and the inability to focus, encourage the spread of infections, promote agitation, depression, and hyperactivity. Negative ions are natural air cleaners. Negative ions are short-lived and readily attach themselves to particles of dust and pollution, conveying a charge to these particles and causing them to clump together and fall to the ground. That's why negative ions are quickly depleted in highly polluted areas. Without negative ions in the air, dust and nanoparticulates such as PM2.5 will circulate indefinitely in the air. In other words, they will never settle but stay suspended in the air and we breathe them in, resulting in inflamed airways and respiratory problems and allergies. But we are a generation that are constantly breathing ion-depleted and polluted air with a cocktail of toxic chemicals and suspended particulates. The increase in incidences of allergies and respiratory illnesses, including lung cancers, even among non-smokers, is alarming. According to World Centre Research Fund International website, lung cancer was the most common cancer worldwide, contributing 13% of the total number of new cases diagnosed in 2012. Up to 15% of lung cancer diagnoses are in people who never smoke. A French research found that not just has there been more women and more non-smokers developing the disease, but there also were more cases diagnosed in stage 4 of the illness. An autopsy study done in Southern California on more than 100 young accident victims aged between 14 and 25 found that almost all of them showed evidence of lung disease and a compromised respiratory system. This all goes to show that long-term chronic exposure to bad air will catch up with all of us. An air ionizer is an excellent means of replenishing the air of negative ions and precipitating contaminants, including the smallest particulate out of the air. Conventional methods of air filtration using HEPA and carbon filters do not provide a holistic solution. Removing pollutants alone without replenishing negative ions will do little to promote respiratory health. The negative ion is essential for health and for life itself. One of the first ever recorded studies on the effect of negative air ions on life was conducted by a Russian research group headed by a Dr. A.L. Chijusky. In 1933, he found that all animals need ions in the air to breathe. Many small animals such as rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, and mice are kept in a well-oxygenated atmosphere without any ions present in the air. But all the animals died within 2 weeks from conditions including kidney failure, heart degeneration, and fatty liver as the result of the animal's inability to absorb and utilize oxygen. Dr. Chijusky reported that an organism receiving the cleanest type of air is condemned to serious illness if the air does not contain at least a small quantity of air ions. Similar experiments conducted by other scientists on plants and animals showed similar results. Negative ions are necessary for the uptake of oxygen necessary for life. Good quality air is free from contaminants and is rich in negative ions. Negative ions destroy pathogens and promote healing. Negative ions destroy disease-causing germs, bacteria, viruses, and more. Airborne flu infections are spread from one person to another in the workplace, schools, nursing homes, and childcare centers due to a lack of negative ions in the air. The New Scientist magazine reported a year-long trial by the University of Leeds at St. James Hospital in the UK, which found that ionizers placed in the intensive care unit significantly reduced infections by eliminating 100% of the highly antibiotic-resistant Acinetobacter from the air. This pathogenic bacteria causes a wide variety of serious infections in humans, mostly in compromised patients, and is resistant to most antibiotics. Subsequent work by microbiologists confirmed that negative ions kill exposed colony of Acinetobacter as well as E. coli, a common type of bacteria that can cause serious food poisoning in humans. Hospitals are notorious places for picking up deadly infections caused by superbugs. In America alone, about 100,000 people die from hospital-acquired infections every year. Users of negative ion generators frequently testify that they have been entirely free from flu infections, despite their friends or family or people in their workplace suffering serious flu symptoms. Another interesting study was carried out in Finland in 1979 where air ionization was found to completely prevent the spread of the Newcastle bird flu spread by infected chicken. The Newcastle disease is a serious and fatal contagious bird disease affecting many domestic and wild bird species. It is also transmittable to humans. A negative ionizer placed on top of the cage's wire gauze roof protected all the birds from the infection, while 90% of the birds in the control cage was infected. So whether it is a surgical incision or damaged tissues due to burns or accidents, a high concentration of negative ions aids in the healing process without leaving unsightly scars. Scars result when wounds do not close up quickly enough due to repeated and chronic infections caused by exposure to atmospheric bacteria. Research published in the Journal of Hygiene discovered that ionization reduced the level of bacteria in burns and plastic surgery units by over 96%. Negative ions have been found to be effective in wound healing. It also produces a tranquilizing effect, and patients treated with high-density negative ions reported a reduction in pain and improved sleep. Negative ions strengthen the immune system. There has been a lot of talk on the immune system. Doctors and ordinary people like us recognized that a strong immune system fortifies the body against infectious diseases as well as degenerative diseases like asthma, eczema, and even cancers. When the immunity is low, we become susceptible to all kinds of illnesses. While breathing unhealthy air impairs our immune system, breathing fresh air with an abundance of negative ions boosts immunity. A 6-year research conducted in Australia's La Trobe University involving a large number of military men showed conclusively that breathing negative ions stimulates the body's production of the antibody immunoglobulin A or IgA to fight infections. So installing an ionizer will greatly support someone who has been weakened by sickness, as well as the very young whose immune system is still being developed. Negative ions improve blood circulation. Negatively charged oxygen ions are readily absorbed into our bloodstream, so our body receives an optimal amount of oxygen for good health. A well-oxygenated body is resistant to disease germs which are anaerobic. In 1931, Nobel Prize winner Dr. Otto Warburg proved that disease germs and cancer cells cannot proliferate or exist in a highly oxygenated environment. Cancer cells are the result of chronic cellular oxygen deprivation. When there is insufficient oxygen, the body's self-defense mechanism kicks in. The cells stop depending on oxygen and start to ferment blood sugar to make energy, turning cancerous in the process. Cancer is but the body's adaptive behavior for survival. Another benefit of breathing negative oxygen ions is that they effectively optimize the repulsive forces between the blood cells so they do not stick together to present health risks such as thrombosis. A recent study carried out in the Conscious Health Clinic in the UK on the effects of negative ions on blood using a medical-grade negative air ion generator showed that within 20 minutes, blood cells became less sticky and they no longer clotted together. Blood samples taken after 24 hours and 3 weeks of breathing negative oxygen ions from the air ionizer showed that blood cells become significantly less sticky and more oxygenated. Heavily pigmented blood cells indicates the presence of an increased amount of oxygen-carrying hemoglobin. Negative ions improve moods. American's CDC website says that stress causes over 90% of sicknesses. Most medical doctors agree that the immune system is capable of healing anything if it is not suppressed by stress. Stress not only causes sick bodies and sick relationships, but also perpetuates them. The negative emotional states that are associated with having too much stress are anxiety, depression, and anger. It is said that 1 in 16 people in Singapore suffered from major depressive disorder in their lifetime, making it the most common mental illness here according to a Singapore mental health study conducted in 2010. Our modern environment promotes and raises stress levels. Our urban lifestyle keeps us for long hours in unhealthy enclosures such as our homes and offices. They are not only depleted of negative ions, but has an exceeding amount of positive ions. As we have mentioned, our indoor environments are typically air-conditioned without ventilation, saturated with chemical vapors from chemical products and personal care products we use at home. The wireless configuration for mobile devices, electrical appliances, all destroy negative ions and produce positive ions. staying in unnatural environments that are lacking in negative ions, but has an oversupply of positive ions for a prolonged period of time, causes our body to oversecrete serotonin, a neurotransmitter and a chemical that's responsible for maintaining mood balance, causing symptoms that range from anxieties, depression, and tension, feelings of weariness or unnatural bursts of hyperactivity, to serious psychiatric problems. Reports from Hungary, Japan, and the USA, Britain, support findings that the buildup of positive ions inside vehicles leads to driver's fatigue and loss of coordination. Positive ion overdose inflicted on car drivers can cause them to become tense and liable to lose their tempers. Unhealthy positive ion concentration in cars also accounts for cranky kids and quarrels between husband and wife, and presents a threat to driver, passengers, and other road users. Positively charged air ions have been termed grouchy ions, while negatively charged ions, happy ions. Improvement in moods has been repeatedly observed in patients exposed to negative ions. Columbia University in New York effectively uses negative ion making machines to treat those who suffered from depression and SAD during the winter time. Air ionization was even later patented by the university in July of 1996 as a safe and drug-free treatment for depression. Renowned ion researcher Dr. Suman discovered that when his subjects are exposed to an overload of positive ions for an hour, they become bad-tempered, fatigued, and irritable. The same people confined in a room full of negative ions felt much better and were alert and relaxed. Dr. Suman went on to test their alertness and capacity for work and found that they scored significantly higher during and after exposure to negative ions. So patients exposed to negative ions experience improvement in moods, better sleep, a sense of calm and relaxation, alertness, optimism, and greater capacity for work. Breathing negative ions have been found to greatly improve respiration. Our first line of filtration and defense against airborne particles and pollutants are little hair-like structures on our airways and lungs called cilia. They keep out dust, pollen, and small particles by a sweeping motion, and together with mucus, they clean the air we inhale before they reach the lungs. It has been found that smoke and heavily polluted air significantly undermine the function of the cilia. Subjected to tobacco smoke, haze, and other pollutants which absorb negative ions, the cilia slow down. Interestingly, however, the scientists found that an overdose of negative ions neutralizes the effect of smoke on the cilia and improves the efficiency of the cilia. Negative ions can protect us from the effects of airborne particles by enabling the cilia to work more efficiently. Negative ions also increase the lung capacity. That is to say, they enable the body to take in more oxygen. St. Bartholomew Hospital in London and the University of Canberra in Australia have also undertaken extensive research that has shown that improvement in lung capacity, as well as relief from asthma symptoms, can be achieved quite rapidly with exposure to small negative air ions. In an Australian-wide survey of users of a leading medically approved air ionizer carried out in 2009, 93% of the respondents who bought the air ionizer specifically to assist them gain relief from asthma reported an improvement in their condition. Of those who had purchased the ionizer to assist with hay fever and allergies, 89% had gained benefit and improvement in their condition as a result of the use of their ionizer. A few claimed that the ionizer had cured them completely. You can find a full report of this survey in our website. The researchers at Jerusalem Hospital reported that infants treated with negative ions seemed to recover faster from asthma and bronchitis without the need for drugs. They were less prone to relapses and also did not cry as often and as loudly. In conclusion, we are living in perilous times. There are destructive agents in the food that we eat, the water that we drink, and even the air that we breathe. Technology has given us new conveniences, enrichments, but also brought about new problems and new epidemics. But we can use technology to reverse the effects of bad air with a good ionizer that restores natural negative ions into the air that we breathe, so that airborne disease germs are destroyed. Harmful pollutants are precipitated so we don't breathe them in and they don't get lodged in our lungs. Our immune system is boosted. We remain optimistic and can cope with stress. Our respiratory system remains highly functional and allergic symptoms are reduced and eliminated. Our body is highly oxygenated and we live from the inside out. Thank you for your attention and I wish you all a happy, healthy, and prosperous life. For more information on negative ions and how to create a healthy indoor environment, read our book, The Truth About Air, Electricity and Health, a guide on the use of air ionization and other natural approaches for 21st century health issues. Or visit our website at dorialife.com. Thank you.